Kazuma is a worthless Squid Game player ever, who died in the funniest way possible. Even the god can't stop laughing at him. But God sent him with insane luck to defeat the Demon King. And he started to clapping all the baddie around. Everything kicks off when Kazuma, a Squid Game contestant, is ready for the red light, green light. Finally, he decides to step outside and grab some fresh air before game starts. His mission? Grab a rare game release at midnight. After spending 5 long hours on a bus, he finally scores the game and is feeling pretty proud of himself. But the second he steps into the daylight, it feels like the sun itself is out to kill him. While dragging himself back home, he spots a girl from his school walking nearby, thinking how to get his phone number. But out of nowhere, he notices a truck and entry is mandatory. Truck overspeeding toward her, ready to send her into another world. Without thinking, Kazuma throws himself in to play the hero. But instead of making it home, Kazuma suddenly finds himself in a totally new world. There, a hot blue-haired girl breaks the news he's his worst protagonist in the anime history.
What? I don't believe it!
Kazuma, still confused, immediately asks about the girl he tried to rescue. She casually says she's perfectly fine. Feeling a bit proud, Kazuma thinks his sacrifice meant something until she casually drops the truth bomb. The girl didn't even need saving. Shocked, Kazuma asks how he actually died. That's when she bursts out laughing and explains the tragic comedy. He panicked over a slow-moving tractor going barely faster than a turtle, and ended up scaring himself to death. She laughs so hard, calling him a clown. Just to add more embarrassment, she mentions he even peed himself before collapsing.
Lord have mercy.
And apparently the hospital staff didn't even take him seriously. They were too busy laughing up as he passed away from a heart attack from accident like that. When Kazuma's family finally showed up at the hospital, they couldn't help but also die laughter.
Emotional damage!
After roasting him to her heart's content, the blue-haired girl finally introduces herself. She's Aqua, a goddess in charge of guiding dead humans to the afterlife. She offers Kazuma repeat this life again. Sorry guys, I mean she offers Kazuma 2 choices. Either start life all over again from scratch or head to heaven. But here's the catch: heaven isn't anything like the cool fantasy you'd expect. No video games, no anime, no girls and no drinks, just eternal boredom. She suggests he choose the restart option instead. Since Kazuma's a gamer at heart, she tempts him with a fantasy world under attack by a demon king. The people there are struggling, and they need help. Aqua says he can start fresh in that world, and the best part? He gets to keep all his memories. But Kazuma's not convinced. He says there's no point in going if he's just gonna die again. That's when Aqua throws in a special bonus. He can bring along one thing of his choice to this new world. Could be a superpower, a crazy weapon, anything he wants to help him survive and thrive. She then shows him a list of options to pick from, but Kazuma just sits there snacking and stalling. Aqua gets annoyed and tells him to hurry up because, in her words, no one expects anything from a worst anime protagonist like you. That hits a nerve. So, to get revenge, Kazuma suddenly shouts that he chooses her as the thing he's taking along. A second later, another goddess pops up to replace Aqua. She tries to argue her way out of it, but the new goddess activates the transfer spell and gives Aqua a cheerful goodbye. Aqua panics, saying all she knows is how to heal people and she's never even touched a sword. Sorry guys, it is not that sword what you think. But before she can complain more, Kazuma just smirks and tells her this is payback for laughing at his death. Right before they get zapped into their new world, the replacement goddess tells Kazuma that if he manages to take down the Demon King, the gods will grant him one wish. So, there's at least one big reward waiting at the end of this crazy ride. Moments later, the duo arrives in the lively city of Axel. Kazuma's pumped finally, a world where he can live out those wild adventures he's always dreamed of. Meanwhile, Aqua's having a full-on meltdown, crying her eyes out because now she's stuck with a worst anime protagonist ever who looks like he hasn't seen soap in years. Kazuma then turns to her and asks if she can whip up some magic clothes for him, since he's still rocking what looks like a Squid Game cosplay. But Aqua's had enough. Instead of helping, she grabs him and starts shaking the life out of him in frustration. And why you dog me with you? He thinks in his mind only for clapping. Not knowing what else to do, Kazuma figures they should find the local adventurers guild that's usually the first stop in every anime. While they're walking, he casually asks if she knows where the guild is. Aqua just shrugs and says she's way too cool to bother with directions. After some wandering, the two finally stumble across the adventurers guild and head inside. Right away, this buff-looking guy calls them out for wearing goofy outfits, but instead of picking a fight, he kindly leads them over to the front desk. Aqua's surprised and asks how Kazuma came up with such a believable story on the fly. Kazuma shoots back saying anyone could do it well, anyone who isn't completely useless like her.
Oh shit!
Aqua's actually kind of impressed. She didn't think a guy who practically lived in his room could think that fast. She teases him, asking if he's ever had a girlfriend. Kazuma instantly gets salty, pointing out that he's never even had a proper walk in the park, let alone held hands with a girl, like some of you guys.
Emotional damage!
At the front desk, they meet a girl with bigger plots named Luna, who tells them there's a registration fee if they want to join the guild. Sadly, they're broke, just like you guys who can't afford instant noodles, so all they can do is sit upset. Kazuma starts complaining, saying that most games at least give you starter gear and a little gold. Aqua claps back, calling him dead weight, and proudly says she'll handle the cash situation herself. Aqua notices a priest nearby and confidently walks up to him, proudly saying she's the goddess of the Axis religion and asking him for some money. The priest, staying calm, gently tells her that he actually follows the Aries religion, which worships her junior goddess. Still, since they're kind of connected, he feels bad for her and hands over a few coins to help them join the guild. With the donation in hand, they head back to Luna. She tells them that every adventurer gets to choose their own role, and then shows them a special card that keeps a record of every monster they defeat. Next, she asks them to place their hands on a glowing crystal. When Kazuma touches it, it begins checking his stats to find the job that fits him best. Once it's done, Luna looks at his card and says his stats are mostly below average. But there's one good thing: his brain power is okay, and his luck is off the charts. Still, she jokes that those kinds of skills are better for a shopkeeper than a hero. Aqua tries not to laugh at him, but it's obvious she's holding it in. Even after that, Kazuma still chooses the adventurer class. Luna agrees and says he can always switch careers later if he wants. But guys, I think Luna makes my editing hard with one hand.
What do you mean by that?
Then it's Aqua's turn. She takes the test, and Luna's eyes go wide when she sees the results. Aqua's brain and luck are worse than a monkey's, but everything else, strength, speed, and power, is super high. Luna is amazed and tells her she's perfect for any job except for wizard. Aqua picks a healing role and is officially signed up as an archpriest, someone who can heal others and fight in the front lines too. Right after that, people in the guild start cheering and giving her a warm welcome. Some of them even begin to wonder if she might be the one who can actually defeat the Demon King. From that moment on, their new journey begins. Kazuma spends his days working hard just to survive, and his nights sleeping in an old stable. As time passes, both he and Aqua slowly get used to the world around them and even start making a few friends. But each day feels the same: work, eat, sleep, repeat. Then one day, Kazuma looks around and realizes they basically become full-time laborers. Aqua agrees, saying they were supposed to be fighting the Demon King, not doing chores. Kazuma starts thinking about how all the monsters near town were taken out long ago, so there aren't many quests left. Later that night, Aqua suggests they head out of town to find some real adventure. She brags that with her goddess powers, everything will be fine. Trusting her, sort of, Kazuma decides to give it a shot. But the next morning, he wakes up back in the same old barn and feels like his big dream of living the fantasy life is falling apart. He even jokes that jobless people back in Japan had more cash than him, at least enough to stay in cheap hotels. When Aqua finally gets up, he asks about the quest plan. She casually says she just wanted to sleep in. Kazuma complains that he thought this world would be full of chaos and battles. But Aqua explains that things are calm here because they're super far from the Demon King's castle. She then tells him to get ready to head out. Soon, Kazuma ends up being chased by a massive frog while Aqua stands off to the side, laughing her heart out. Kazuma explains these giant frogs show up every year during their egg season to snack on livestock, and his mission is to take down 5 of them in just 3 days. Instead of helping, Aqua just keeps watching him struggle while cracking jokes. She finally says she'll step in, but only if Kazuma agrees to worship her like a true goddess from now on. But right in the middle of Aqua's non-stop talking, one of the giant frogs casually strolls over and swallows her whole smoother than my girlfriend. Kazuma panics and runs straight toward the monster, somehow managing to pull her out just in time. Soaked in slime and smelling terrible, Aqua climbs onto Kazuma, hugging him like a hero and thanking him for saving her. After that mess, Kazuma sighs and decides maybe the adventuring life isn't really for them. But while he's deep in thought, Aqua suddenly spots another frog nearby. Confidently, she dashes toward it, ready to blast it away with one big magic move. Sadly, her attack does absolutely nothing, not even a scratch. And just like before, the frog gulps her down again. Kazuma groans and rushes in once more to rescue her all over again. Later that night, in their usual barn stay, Aqua starts whining about how weak they are and says they seriously need more people on their team. Kazuma agrees, thinking it might actually be a smart idea for once. Aqua, full of confidence, believes tons of people will want to join since she's from a top-tier class. They put up a recruitment poster, hoping for the best. But no one shows up, not even one person. Turns out, Aqua added a ridiculous rule only people from advanced classes can apply. Kazuma thinks that's way too picky, especially since they're struggling themselves. As they're debating whether to fix the poster, a mysterious girl suddenly walks up to them, curious about the notice. She says destiny brought them together and proudly introduces herself as Megumin, an arch-wizard who specializes in explosive magic. She starts bragging like crazy about her insane powers. But Kazuma and Aqua both aren't buying it, they just stare at her like, really? Out of nowhere, Megumin collapses to the ground and reveals she hasn't had a single bite in 3 days. Feeling bad, Kazuma hands her some food and also suggests she take off her weird eye patch so Aqua can heal her properly. But Megumin claims it's not for fashion, it's a magic seal that keeps her power under control. Kazuma doesn't believe a word and yanks it off her face anyway. While she's resting, Aqua casually explains that Megumin belongs to the Crimson Demon Clan, a group known for their insane brains and powerful magic. Curious, the two peek at her adventurer card and confirm she's actually telling the truth. She really is an arch-wizard, and her magic stat is through the roof. Later on, they bring Megumin along to the edge of town to deal with more giant frogs. She tells them to keep the toads distracted because her magic needs a bit of time to charge up. As another frog appears, Kazuma tells Aqua to finally prove she's a real goddess. Hearing that, Megumin starts to wonder if Aqua's got some kind of split personality. Annoyed by the comment, Aqua charges at the frog to show off her power only to get eaten once again, just like last time. While Kazuma thinks she is useless than him in previous life, Megumin finally finishes charging her spell. The sky above them lights up as her magic builds. And then boom, a massive explosion goes off, wiping out the frog in one giant almighty push. Right after the huge blast, another giant frog appears, but Megumin is completely drained. That one explosion used up all her energy. She collapses on the spot, unable to move. Now it's just Kazuma left to handle the mess. The frog slowly creeps toward them and ends up swallowing Megumin too. Somehow, with nothing but pure plot luck, Kazuma manages to rescue both girls again. With 5 frogs taken down, their quest is finally complete. The team returns to the guild absolutely drenched in frog slime. Kazuma, fed up, tells Megumin she's not allowed to use explosion magic anymore unless it's really necessary. But Megumin drops a surprise that's the only magic she knows. Aqua chimes in, saying Megumin could easily learn other spells, but Megumin refuses. She admits it would be way easier to adventure with a more balanced skill set, but she doesn't care. All she wants is big booms. Logic? Not her thing. Aqua, being just as chaotic, totally supports this ridiculous mindset, calling it girl power.
Women.
Kazuma, meanwhile, feels like he's the only one left with a working brain cell. He already knows Aqua's less helpful than Sakura from Naruto, and now with Megumin in the team, his problems have doubled. Still, he keeps a fake smile on and decides to at least get their reward from the guild. But Megumin has other ideas. She says she doesn't care about money, all she needs is a little food, somewhere to sleep, and permission to blow stuff up. Kazuma jokes that her talents are way too over the top for a weak party like theirs, but she insists on joining them anyway. They end up arguing until Megumin suddenly jumps on him and starts choking him in desperation. She admits that no one else is willing to take her into their party, and she begs Kazuma not to leave her behind. People nearby start watching the scene unfold and feel sorry for her, making Kazuma look like the bad guy for rejecting such a helpless girl. The people also notice that Megumin is covered in slime and, thanks to their wild imaginations, they jump to the worst conclusion, thinking Kazuma did something awful. His reputation takes a serious hit on the spot. Panicking, Kazuma tries to explain what really happened, but Megumin starts acting dramatic and plays along with the misunderstanding. Smirking, she uses the moment to her advantage and pressures him into letting her join the party, leaving him no way out. That night, Luna tells them their quest is complete, and Kazuma jumps up 4 levels as a reward. She explains that since he's still a beginner, he'll grow stronger quickly. She then hands over their reward, 110,000 Eris. But Kazuma isn't too happy. Even though he did most of the work, he still has to split the money with the others. He feels like the pay doesn't match the risk of nearly getting eaten by giant frogs. As he daydreams about going back to Japan, a blonde girl suddenly walks up to him. She says she saw his party notice and wants to join. When Kazuma turns around, he sees a hot, cute-looking knight standing behind him, and he's instantly stunned by how pretty she is, thinking about how to clap her as soon as possible. The girl introduces herself as Darkness, but right after that, she gets super awkward and starts stuttering, totally losing her cool vibe. She then points to the girls covered in frog slime and weirdly asks if that's part of the job. Kazuma quickly clears up the misunderstanding and tells her the truth. Still, she insists that she won't let gross monsters hurt such lovely girls again. That's when Kazuma starts to realize she's not as normal as she looks. He tells her it might not be a good idea to join their team. He even lists all the problems they already have. Aqua is a mess, Megumin only knows one spell, and things are already chaotic. But then Darkness admits she's got problems too. She can't even land a single hit when she fights. Even with that, she pushes her face right up to Kazuma and says she'd love to be used as a human shield in battle. Kazuma's heart starts racing and he tries to stay calm. He tells her it feels wrong to use a girl like that, but she ignores every excuse he gives. At that moment, Kazuma realizes she's even more unpredictable than he thought. The next day, Kazuma heads over to the guild and spots Aqua performing silly magic tricks to entertain random strangers. Watching her do that just reminds him again that she's pretty much useless. While eating lunch, Kazuma hears about how he can use his level up points to learn new skills. But so far, he hasn't spent any because he doesn't want to waste them on stuff that doesn't help. Megumin tells him that to learn any skill, he first needs someone to teach it. Once he learns it, it'll show up on his adventurer card automatically. When he asks if she can teach him explosion magic, Megumin's face lights up with excitement, and she promises to teach him everything she knows. But seeing her get way too hyped, Kazuma tells her to calm down, calling her little one, which immediately makes her go from excited to gloomy in a second. Later, Kazuma thinks about what skill he can learn quickly using his 3 points. But before he can decide, Darkness shows up again, wanting to finish their conversation from last night. She once again asks if she can join his party. When Kazuma gives her another quick no, she starts shaking like she just got shocked. Right then, another girl walks up and tells Darkness to stop acting like that or she'll freak people out. She introduces herself as Chris, a skilled thief. Chris then tells Kazuma she can teach him some basic thief abilities that don't cost much to learn and all he has to do is treat her to a drink. Later on, Chris explains a few thief skills like sneaking, spotting enemies, and hiding. But her favorite is one called steal, which she immediately shows off by snatching his coin pouch without him noticing. She then challenges Kazuma to learn the same skill and try to steal it back from her. Even though there's a chance he might lose all his money, Kazuma has always wanted to try something like this, so he accepts. Chris tells him to look at his adventurer card and unlock the skill. Kazuma does it and finally learns steal. She then lets him try it on her. She mentions she's carrying a dagger worth 400,000 eris, but also has a bunch of useless stuff in her pockets. That means he might not get the good one. Without thinking too hard, Kazuma casts the spell and hits the jackpot. Chris is caught totally off guard and ends up completely flustered. Later, Kazuma walks back into the guild with a completely embarrassed Darkness and a very sad-looking Chris. Darkness tells everyone that Kazuma somehow managed to pull off something unbelievable. Chris explains that he ended up taking all her money in exchange for her underwear. Hearing that, everyone around the guild starts giving Kazuma the side eye, thinking he's some kind of weirdo. Aqua, trying to change the subject, asks if he learned any cool new skills. To show off, Kazuma uses steal again and accidentally snatches Megumin's underwear, leaving her red-faced. She calmly asks him to please give it back. Kazuma's confused because the steal skill is supposed to pick random items, yet he keeps getting the same thing every time. Darkness uses this chance to call him a future criminal and warns that if he doesn't let her join the team, she'll punish him for his actions. Kazuma says no once again, and just like before, she starts shaking with excitement. That's when Aqua realizes she's the same strange girl who asked to join last night. Megumin checks her adventurer card and finds out that Darkness is actually a crusader, a heavy armor fighter. She insists that someone like her would be useful in their group, but Kazuma still isn't sure. He reminds them that his goal is to defeat the Devil King, and things are only going to get more dangerous from here. Trying to scare her off, Kazuma says that if she ever got caught, she might face terrible things. But to his surprise, Darkness seems completely unbothered and weirdly excited. Kazuma quickly realizes this girl is totally hopeless. He then turns to Megumin, trying to give a serious speech about how risky their mission is. But instead of backing off, she gets even more fired up and says she's ready to blast the Devil King into pieces. Ironically, the only one who looks genuinely scared by Kazuma's speech is Aqua, the one person who's supposed to stick with him no matter what. Out of nowhere, an emergency alert goes out across the city, calling every adventurer to the front gate. In no time, the entire place is buzzing with chaos. Crowds gather outside as tension builds. Darkness promises to protect Kazuma no matter what, while Megumin moves up front, readying her strongest spell. That's when the real threat appears, not monsters, but a wild horde of flying cabbages charging at the city. Surprisingly, this isn't even unusual here. These cabbages would rather fly off and rot alone than be cooked up and eaten. Luna steps forward and explains what's happening. It's harvest season, and the guild will reward 10,000 eris for every cabbage caught. That's enough to get everyone pumped. Adventurers sprint forward to start collecting. Darkness sees this as her big moment, and charges into battle, hoping to impress Kazuma. But as expected, she can't land a single hit. Still, when two men are surrounded by cabbages, she dives in front of them and takes all the hits herself. Her armor starts falling apart, and people beg her to back off. But she refuses, not because she's noble, but because she's weirdly enjoying the attention. Megumin, meanwhile, unleashes her explosion spell, wiping out a huge section of cabbages in one go. Problem solved. That night, everyone feasts on cabbage dishes. Aqua cheers for Darkness, calling her brave and strong. Darkness replies that protecting people with her body is basically the only thing she's good at. Megumin gives Aqua credit for using healing magic to help the hurt and keep the cabbages fresh. But the one who really saved the day was Megumin with her one-shot blast. Even Kazuma gets praised for sneaking behind the cabbages using his lurk skill, then swiping their wings using steel, which made them easy to grab. Aqua jokingly calls him the cabbage thief, and Kazuma instantly regrets everything. Once again, Darkness begs to be part of the party. Aqua supports the idea, saying they'd now have 3 advanced class members. Kazuma thinks it wouldn't be so bad if only Darkness wasn't as crazy as the rest of them. But in the end, he gives in knowing full well his life is about to get way more complicated. A few days pass, and Kazuma finally learns his first magic, a super basic water spell. It's weak, but it makes him feel a little more like a real adventurer. While he's practicing, Darkness shows up and tells him she fixed her armor using the cash from the cabbage mission. Kazuma doesn't really care much, though. She softly hints that he should compliment her more often, but before he can reply, they're interrupted by Megumin waving her staff at a cat, trying to enchant it with magic. Not far from them, Aqua's in a heated argument with Luna. She's upset about not getting her full reward. Luna calmly explains that the vegetables Aqua brought back had lettuce mixed in, and since lettuce is cheaper than cabbage, she got paid less. Aqua storms over to Kazuma and asks how much he made. He casually shrugs and tells her he's rolling in money now. Turns out the cabbages he captured were super valuable, all thanks to his insane luck stat. Aqua's eyes light up. She instantly starts sweet-talking him, hoping he'll share the riches. But Kazuma refuses. Desperate, Aqua starts begging, saying she's already spent all her money. Kazuma reminds her she was the one who said everyone should keep their own rewards. With no other option, Aqua offers to let him into her private vault if he lends her some cash. Not wanting to be dragged into any more drama, Kazuma gives her a little money just to shut her up. Later, Kazuma finally ditches his old clothes and puts on proper adventurer gear. The girls check out his new look and admit he actually looks legit now. Feeling confident, the group heads over to the quest board to pick a new mission. At the board, they find quests to fight way stronger monsters, including one for a giant creature called Black Fawn. Kazuma notices all the jobs seem tough, and Luna explains why one of the Devil King's top generals recently moved close to town, so all the weaker monsters ran away. That night, Kazuma talks with Aqua and tells her things won't get easier until they deal with this problem. Until then, finding easy work is going to be nearly impossible. The following day, Megumin drags Kazuma along to help her test out her magic. She tells him straight up that once she blasts her spell, she's going to knock out cold, so he's gotta carry her back. While heading to a quiet spot, they bump into a rundown, empty castle. Megumin, being herself, figures no one would care if she used it as target practice. She fires off her explosion, blows the whole place to bits, then instantly collapses. Kazuma, as usual, ends up lugging her home on his back. Meanwhile, Aqua's busy grinding at her part-time gig, trying to earn some quick cash, and Darkness heads off to her hometown for some solo training. With not much else going on, Megumin keeps going back every single day just to nuke the same broken castle for fun, and, of course, Kazuma becomes her personal ride home again and again. This routine went on for days. Kazuma even started rating Megumin's daily explosions like a judge at a fireworks show. Then one day, she hit the castle with her most powerful blast, yet it was so good, she even managed to convince Kazuma that maybe he should learn explosion magic too someday. Later, Aqua came home from work carrying a ton of leftover food, excited about what tomorrow might bring. But Kazuma wasn't feeling as hopeful. He started doubting they could ever defeat the Devil King. He thought someone stronger and more useful should have been summoned instead of him. He didn't have any fancy powers like the heroes in other stories. Aqua started freaking out, afraid she'd never return to the heavens, but Kazuma shut her down, calling her useless even though she's supposed to be a goddess. When she started bawling, he told her at least teach him healing magic. But she refused, saying that if he learned that too, she'd be totally irrelevant. Later, she cried in front of Megumin and Darkness. Megumin asked Kazuma to stop being so harsh, while Darkness, in her usual weird way, asked him to punish her instead. But Kazuma quickly figured out Aqua was faking her sadness just to get everyone's pity. Suddenly, Luna shows up calling for an urgent meeting. She tells every adventurer to gear up immediately. Everyone rushes to the town gates and comes face to face with an undead knight named Valia, one of the Devil King's top soldiers. He demands to know which one of them, specifically Morin, has been blasting his castle with explosions non-stop. Everyone looks around trying to guess who it could be. Somehow, they point fingers at a completely innocent girl who clearly doesn't know a thing about explosion magic. But Megumin can't let someone else take the blame for her actions. She steps up and confesses. Valia, clearly annoyed, tells her to stop attacking from afar like a coward and fight him directly if she's so bold. He says he's been ignoring the town because the damage has been minor, but if this keeps happening, he won't hold back anymore. Instead of apologizing, Megumin doubles down and says she's been targeting him on purpose all this time just to lure him out. She even claims her plan worked perfectly since he showed up alone. Kazuma doesn't believe her nonsense for a second, but the others actually think she's some kind of genius. Valia warns her to stop or else, but Megumin doesn't care. She says she's not stopping and then yells for Aqua's help. Aqua quickly joins her, summoning her staff, ready for action. The knight isn't fooled by Megumin's bluff and throws a deadly curse at her, but Darkness jumps in and takes the hit. Kazuma rushes to help her, but the damage is done. The knight says she has 1 week left to live. He tells Megumin this wouldn't have happened if she hadn't acted like a reckless child. The only way to remove the curse is to do what he says. Darkness starts thinking she'll have to let Beldia do something totally inappropriate to survive. Strangely excited at the idea, she asks Kazuma for advice. But before he can say anything, she runs straight to Beldia and practically begs him to take her. Kazuma quickly pulls her back before she makes it worse. Ignoring her, Beldia turns to Megumin and says if she wants to save her friend, she must come to his castle and reach his room. But it won't be easy, it's full of monsters. Then he leaves. Megumin starts feeling the pressure and decides to go after him right away. Kazuma says he's partly to blame since he watched her blow up the castle every single day, so he wants to help. Megumin warns that regular weapons won't work against undead enemies, but she's secretly happy that Kazuma will be depending on her for once. Darkness begs them not to risk it, but before anything else happens, Aqua casually casts a spell and breaks the curse like it's nothing, leaving everyone stunned. A few days later, Kazuma is back to complaining about his boring life in this so-called fantasy world. He dreamed of fighting monsters and diving into treasure-filled caves, but instead, he's living a basic, dull life. At the guild, Aqua's in a foul mood and pushes for a new quest, mostly to pay off the huge debt she somehow built up. She literally crawls to Kazuma and begs him for help, and he can't believe a goddess could look so desperate. He agrees to let her choose, but when she picks a dangerous mission involving a manticore and a griffin, he instantly says no. So, she ends up picking a safer quest, purifying a lake near Axel, which should scare off the aggressive gators living there. Kazuma is shocked she has that kind of power but lets her take all the reward money since she'll be doing it solo. The problem? Purifying a whole lake takes forever, and monsters might show up while she's glowing with goddess magic. Naturally, she asks the others to protect her. Kazuma comes up with a better idea. He rents a tiny metal cage from the guild, locks Aqua inside, and treats her like a zoo pet. Surprisingly, she agrees without much complaint. They carry the cage all the way to Riverhead Lake, drop it gently into the water, and let Aqua do her thing while the rest of the group just chills on the shore. As Aqua sits there for hours in freezing water, releasing her divine energy into the lake, the crew relaxes and casually chats about random stuff, including how Aqua's planning to handle bathroom breaks. Qua tries to convince Kazuma that girls don't poop, it's just common sense. Megumin joins in, saying Crimson Demons don't need bathrooms either. Darkness tries to go along with the act too, even though she's clearly about to lose it. Kazuma doesn't buy any of it and jokes about taking on a long quest next time to see who actually breaks first. As their goofy talk continues, the lake gets dangerous. Huge gators start circling the cage, crashing into it and chomping aggressively while Aqua panics and shoots out frantic purification blasts. While Aqua's screaming in fear, Darkness starts enjoying the chaos because, of course, getting attacked is her thing. After 5 painful hours, the lake is finally clean, and the alligators are gone. The rest of the group walks up to Aqua, only to find her completely broken down. She's sobbing and refuses to leave the cage even after Kazuma says she can keep all the reward money. She declares the cage her new home and begs them to carry her back to town in it. Somewhere else, 2 girls are locked in battle with a dragon on top of a volcano. Just then, a heroic swordsman named Kyo arrives and defeats the beast with his magic blade. The girls, Clemia and Fio, who he had saved, start arguing over who gets to ride in his magical monster truck that night. But Kiya has a bigger mission, to save this world from the Devil King and fulfill a promise he made to the goddess who summoned him. As he's walking, he hears Aqua singing in the distance, and rushes toward the sound only to find her locked inside a cage like some street pet. Onlookers stare as Kazuma tries to get her out, telling her she's embarrassing them. But Aqua's so shaken she refuses to step out, claiming she'd rather rot inside than face the world again. Kiya, seeing his precious goddess like that, rushes over and smashes open the cage to free her. Aqua lights up from the praise, though she awkwardly forgets who he is until Kazuma reminds her. Feeling important again, Aqua loudly declares that she's a goddess. Once Kiya hears the full story, he gets mad at Kazuma for dragging Aqua into this mess. But Aqua says she's actually having fun. Kiya gets even angrier when he learns she's been living in a barn and being treated like a farm animal. He tells Kazuma he's lucky to live with a bunch of beauties. But all Kazuma can think about is Aqua crying non-stop, Megumin blowing stuff up, and Darkness chasing pain like a hobby. Kiya tries to win over Megumin and Darkness by asking them to join his party. Both instantly reject him, thinking he's super cringe. Offended, Kiya challenges Kazuma to a duel to win Aqua's loyalty. Kazuma agrees and surprises him with a sneak attack, knocking him out cold and stealing his sword, Graham. Clemia and Fio yell at Kazuma, reminding him that only Kiya can actually use that sword. Kazuma doesn't care, he just takes it with him anyway. As the argument continues, Kazuma shuts everyone up by threatening to take away whatever they love most. The next day, Aqua storms into the guild, furious that most of her reward was taken to pay for the cage that Kiya broke. Right then, Kiya shows up again, ready to accuse Kazuma of mistreating women, based on what Chris told him. But before he finishes, Aqua punches him straight in the face and demands payment for the damaged cage. He immediately pays up, and Aqua happily heads to the counter to grab a drink. Kiya begs Kazuma to return his sword and promises to buy him a better one instead. But when he finds out Kazuma already sold it for cash, he runs off in complete disbelief. After he's gone, Darkness asks Kazuma why Kiya called Aqua a goddess. Kazuma says it's time to tell the truth. Before they can explain, Luna announces an emergency call for all adventurers to gather at the gate. There, Beldia the Dullahan appears, furious that no one's visited his castle after all his effort. Kazuma tries to explain they've stayed away since their last encounter, but Beldia finds out that Megumin has secretly continued firing explosions at his castle every day. Megumin admits she was fine blasting open fields at first, but after experiencing the thrill of hitting that castle, she just couldn't stop. Kazuma wonders how she managed to walk back home if she passed out each time. Turns out, Aqua had been her new partner in crime ever since Kazuma quit helping. This foolishness brings Beldia to their doorstep again, now convinced that Darkness died from his curse. Just as things heat up, Darkness steps forward completely fine. Beldia is stunned. Aqua uses the moment to mock him, and then casually casts Turn Undead, sending a shock of pain through him. Realizing that Aqua is an Axel, Beldia loses it and calls in an undead army to destroy the town. But the undead ignore the townsfolk and head straight for Aqua, drawn to her holy energy. Screaming, Aqua sprints through the city while Kazuma jokes that the undead are chasing her for salvation. She loops around and returns to the adventurers, only Kazuma still nearby. The two of them dodge chaos together as the undead follow close behind. Kazuma asks Aqua to stop the army, but she admits her magic isn't working. Just then, Megumin climbs to higher ground and prepares her explosion. Once Kazuma and Aqua are out of range, she fires a massive blast that wipes out the undead, earning loud cheers and even a few weird nicknames from the crowd. While Kazuma carries her away from the blast zone, she whispers for him to remember everyone who gave her those names so she can blow them up later. Although most of the army is destroyed, Beldia survives. Adventurers charge in to finish him, but he throws his head high into the air to get a bird's eye view of the battlefield, making his attacks deadly accurate. Kazuma thinks Kiya could have helped if he still had a weapon. Meanwhile, Darkness charges alone, determined to stop Beldia. She looks strong at first but can't land a single hit, and Beldia starts tearing through her armor. Instead of backing off, Darkness slips into one of her usual fantasies and enjoys the humiliation. Kazuma sees a chance and uses Create Water to try and weaken Beldia, but the knight dodges it. Refusing to give up, Kazuma follows up with Freeze and briefly traps him. He tries to steal Beldia's sword, but because of their level difference, the attempt fails. While trying to figure out Beldia's weakness, Kazuma remembers that undead types usually have a problem with water. So that has to work on Beldia too, right? Just as Beldia gets ready to finish off Darkness, Kazuma quickly teams up with other mages to hit him with waves of water spells. As Beldia dodges them, Kazuma turns to Aqua and pushes her to do something, saying that even someone as hopeless as her must know how to control water. Aqua takes the chance to act petty and wastes time by making him apologize first. After he gives in, Aqua finally lifts her hands and starts casting a powerful spell. Beldia sees what's coming and tries to escape, but darkness blocks his path. Aqua then unleashes a massive holy flood that crashes over the battlefield, even damaging part of the city wall. With Beldia now drained and vulnerable, Kazuma jumps in and manages to grab his head. Kazuma then turns the moment into a joke, inviting everyone to play football with Beldia's head as the ball. After they've had their fun, Aqua purifies the rest of his body, officially ending the fight. Once things calm down, Darkness kneels to give a heartfelt prayer for the fallen adventurers who had once accepted her into their party. But that emotional moment turns awkward when she realizes Aqua already revived them, and no one's actually dead. Kazuma tells her to relax since she secretly enjoys humiliation, but she insists this kind of awkwardness isn't her style. The next day, while Kazuma feels glad just to be alive, the guild is buzzing with celebration. Adventurers are drinking, laughing, and retelling the whole battle. Luna shows up and tells Kazuma that their group is being credited for taking down Beldia. As a reward, they're getting 30 million Eris. Kazuma immediately calls a team meeting, saying that with that kind of money, he's ready to retire and live comfortably. The girls quickly object and remind him about his promise to defeat the Devil King. Kazuma brushes it off, more interested in retirement. But before his dream settles in, Luna adds a catch. The party also has to pay for the flood damage Aqua caused. The repair costs are higher than the reward. And just like that, they're broke again. Kazuma lets out a loud groan and swears to defeat the Devil King if only to escape the chaos his three companions bring. As winter sets in, most adventurers stay cozy indoors, but Kazuma sits in the guild frustrated about being broke again. Aqua scolds him, saying he's making a beautiful goddess sleep on straw. He snaps back, blaming her for the debt, and complains that even his eyelashes froze last night. If they keep sleeping in the stables, he jokes, he's going to become an ice cube. But Aqua refuses to take the blame. She argues they would all be dead if not for her spell and says they should be worshipping her, not complaining. Fed up with her attitude, Kazuma storms off and tells her to deal with the debt herself. Soon, Darkness and Megaman show up and ask if he found them a job. He admits he hasn't even looked. They also notice that most other adventurers are celebrating, likely because they got paid big for helping defeat Beldia. While scanning the quest board, Darkness spots one for hunting white wolves with a 1 million Eris reward, and naturally, she gets excited about the idea of being mauled. Kazuma immediately shuts that down. Then Megaman shows him another quest involving something called One Punch Bears, bragging about how she could take one out in a single blast. He shoots that down too, saying it's way too risky. Instead, Kazuma picks a safer option, a snow sprite hunt that pays 100,000 Eris per sprite. As Megaman rambles about how dangerous this could be, Aqua rushes off to get ready. Darkness, of course, is thrilled just because it has snow in the title. Soon the crew bundles up and heads into a frozen forest known to be crawling with snow sprites. Kazuma begins slicing the tiny ice creatures, while Aqua collects them in bottles, planning to use them as magical mini fridges for summer. Megumin, being herself, nukes a whole group with a massive explosion and immediately collapses like always. When Kazuma checks on her, she proudly says she got 9 sprites and even leveled up. Kazuma starts to wonder why no one else is doing this quest, it's way too fun. That's when Darkness senses someone nearby, and Aqua explains why. Most adventurers avoid this mission out of fear of the Winter Shogun, a terrifying snow sprite guardian. Moments later, the Shogun appears, a massive spirit warrior with a samurai look. Aqua says he's so dangerous that even the Devil King put a bounty on him. While Kazuma starts to panic, Darkness charges in, only to have her sword shattered in one hit. Aqua explains the Shogun appears based on the enemy's thoughts, and because Kazuma is Japanese, the spirit took a samurai form. Realizing how bad this is, Aqua quickly releases the sprites and tells everyone to toss their weapons and beg for mercy. Megumin and Kazuma follow her lead, but Darkness refuses to kneel. Freaking out, Kazuma tries to force Darkness to bow but forgets he's still holding his sword. The Shogun sees it as a threat and immediately chops Kazuma's head off. Kazuma wakes up in the afterlife, where he's greeted by the kind goddess Ares. Unlike Aqua, she's warm, gentle, and actually shows sympathy. She offers to send him back to Japan, and even gives him the option to be rich and good-looking. Kazuma, trying to milk the moment, starts whining about his miserable party, his bad luck, and all the nonsense he's been through. But as he talks, tears start to fall. He realizes that despite all the chaos, he actually misses his teammates. Life with them might have been wild, but it was never boring, and he made real friends. Just when he's about to choose a peaceful new life, Aqua's voice suddenly echoes from the living world, calling him back. Ares explains that reviving in the same world twice is against the rules. But Aqua doesn't care. She summons Boss and starts trashing Ares for being fake. She even threatens to spill the secret that Ares uses padded cups. Embarrassed, Ares gives in and agrees to send Kazuma back. As a magical circle forms around him, Ares asks Kazuma to keep everything quiet when he returns. Back in the real world, Kazuma wakes up in the snow with Megumin and Darkness hugging him. Aqua proudly tells him he owes her big time for bringing him back. But Kazuma's not feeling it. He refuses to thank her, still thinking about how peaceful and chill Ares was compared to Aqua's non-stop drama. Aqua gets annoyed, and when she tries to smack some sense into Kazuma, Darkness steps in to stop the fight. Kazuma finally realizes that getting decapitated by the Winter Shogun wasn't exactly a heroic way to go out, and now he's convinced that they're way too underleveled to be taking winter quests. Back at the guild, Aqua proudly reveals she secretly kept one snow sprite for herself. Kazuma tries to take it and claim the reward, but she refuses, saying she wants to use it as her own magical mini-fridge. Kazuma sighs, fully reminded that his party is a collection of lunatics. Compared to the peaceful Ares, his current teammates feel like loud, chaotic weirdos who don't know what rest means. Later that freezing night, Aqua sits outside near a fire trying to stay warm. When the wind nearly kills the flames, she reaches for Kazuma's tracksuit, the only item he brought from Earth, to burn it. He smacks her head and tells her it's the last thing he has from his old life, and she's not setting it on fire. Aqua complains that if she can't burn it, then Kazuma should warm her up himself. But before the conversation continues, the fire goes out, and she sits there miserable while Kazuma goes off to fix the situation. They head over to Wiz's magic shop, but before walking in, Kazuma warns Aqua not to cause trouble. The second they enter, Aqua loses it and grabs Wiz by the collar, shouting at her for living comfortably while they're stuck freezing in the stables. Kazuma smacks Aqua on the head and pulls her off Wiz before things escalate. Once they all calm down, Aqua demands tea. While Wiz quietly prepares it, Kazuma explains to the others that even though Wiz looks human, she's actually a lich. But instead of being evil, she used to help souls move on to the afterlife until his group somehow took that job from her, allowing her to retire and open her shop. Wiz brings the tea, and Aqua admits it's delicious, but still glares at her because of the whole undead thing. Meanwhile, Kazuma mentions he's been saving up skill points and wants to learn some of Wiz's techniques. Aqua immediately objects, saying liches are gross like slugs, but Kazuma insists her magic could help in serious fights. Aqua introduces herself, again, as a goddess of the Axis Church, and Wiz reacts nervously, saying she's met enough crazy people from that cult already. Learning that Aqua leads the Axis Order, Wiz suggests she belongs in an asylum. Offended, Aqua starts pestering her again. Later, Wiz says she's impressed that Kazuma and the group managed to defeat Beldia. When Kazuma asks how she knew about it, she reveals she's also one of the Devil King's 8 generals. Aqua immediately tackles her, but Wiz panics and explains she's never hurt anyone and only protects the barrier around the Devil King's castle, turning her and won't earn them a bounty. She also tells them that defeating all of the generals is the only way to reach the Devil King's castle. But Aqua still wants to throw hands just because Wiz insulted the Axis Order. Wiz insists she doesn't want to fight, especially since Beldia was a creep who would fake dropping his head just to peek under her skirt. Eventually, Wiz agrees to teach Kazuma a new skill, Drain Touch, which lets him absorb magic energy. She demonstrates it on Aqua, but Aqua struggles and tries to fight back. Kazuma bonks her again and tells her to sit still and let Wiz finish. While Kazuma's learning the spell, Aqua grabs Wiz's hand and starts trying to purify her, nearly succeeding until Kazuma yanks her away at the last second. Just then, they get a job offer from a real estate agent to cleanse a haunted mansion. When they arrive, Aqua stands outside acting spooky and pretending to scare off evil spirits, eyes closed and arms waving dramatically. Meanwhile, the others just walk past her and begin cleaning the place, leaving her outside ranting ghost stories to absolutely no one. That night, Kazuma finally gets to enjoy a proper bed in his new room and feels safe knowing Aqua is around to keep any ghosts away. But his peace is short-lived when he hears a loud scream from her room. Turns out, Aqua's been saving a special drink for months and someone took it. She absolutely loses it and starts throwing turn undead spells all over the mansion in a full-blown meltdown. Later that night, Kazuma wakes up needing to pee but gets completely freaked out when he sees creepy floating dolls surrounding him. He bolts for safety and ends up in Aqua's room only to find Megumin instead. She tells him she saw the dolls too and had come to ask Aqua to escort her to the bathroom. With no sign of Aqua or Darkness probably busy ghost hunting, the two argue about who should go first until the haunted dolls burst in again, sending them sprinting away. They finally reach the bathroom, and Megumin rushes in first. But when the dolls reappear, Kazuma panics and drags her out mid-squat. On the run, she hands him a tiny bottle to take care of his business once they're safe. They hide in another room, where Megumin starts prepping her explosion spell in full panic mode. As the ghostly sounds get louder, Kazuma tells her to run while he holds them off using the new magic he learned. But when they open the door, they find Aqua already knocked out after blasting her way through the dolls. The next morning, Kazuma and Aqua head to the guild to collect the reward for clearing the haunted mansion. But Luna explains the spirits only showed up because someone cast a magical barrier around the nearby cemetery, forcing the ghosts into the mansion. Kazuma instantly figures out the culprit and shoots Aqua a look. Cornered, she admits she set the barrier so she wouldn't have to go purify the graveyard every day. Feeling guilty, they give up the reward without a fight. Later, while Kazuma is outside cleaning up the yard, Wiz quietly shows up to thank him for everything. Just as things seem calm, he hears Aqua inside convincing Darkness to burn his tracksuit to keep warm, and he rushes back in to stop them. That night, Megumin and Darkness are playing a budget version of chess in the living room while Kazuma relaxes on the couch. But Aqua starts whining for him to move because she's the highest level in the group and deserves the best seat. Kazuma points out her stats haven't increased since day one, but she insists that's because she started maxed out. He gives her the seed not out of kindness, but because he realizes her brain isn't exactly firing on all cylinders. Now that they've got a mansion, they can survive the winter. But Kazuma wonders if he can survive the madness of living with 3 disaster-prone weirdos. A few days later, Kazuma takes the group to Wiz's shop. While they're browsing, a shy girl peeks from behind a shelf, then suddenly jumps out and challenges Megumin to a duel. It's Yunyan, another Crimson Demon who declared herself Megumin's rival after a previous encounter. Wiz casually mentions that Yunyan's been hanging out at her shop just hoping to run into Megumin again. Embarrassed, Yunyan panics and tries to play it cool by grabbing a random item, a choker, and pretending to be a normal customer. Trying to be nice, Darkness invites Yunyan to visit their mansion sometime. But Megumin, tired of the awkward energy, grabs Yunyan and shakes her, sending the choker flying across the room and knocking a bunch of stuff onto Kazuma, who was just trying to chill. As Kazuma picks up the choker, Wiz suddenly freezes and stares at him in horror. Wiz explains that the choker is actually a dangerous item popular among women trying to lose weight. Once it's worn, it won't come off unless the wearer's wish is granted. If not, it gets tighter over 4 days until it strangles the person to death. Kazuma doesn't even remember making a wish, which sends the girls into a panic. They all blame themselves for getting him into this mess. Aqua, however, acts chill and says she can just revive him if he dies. But Kazuma tells her he wouldn't want to come back again, not when he still has a debt to pay and the Devil King to defeat. Hearing that, even Aqua starts freaking out, and everyone agrees to do whatever it takes to fulfill his mystery wish. Back at the mansion, Kazuma goes full gremlin mode and milks the situation. He demands to lie on Wiz's lap like they're dating, makes Darkness do push-ups and sit-ups without armor just to watch her bounce, and sends Aqua out to grab yakisoba bread and booze. He even makes Megumin and Yunyan play rock paper scissors with the loser removes 1 clothing rule. Yunyan loses again and throws a tantrum by yanking Megumin's clothes in frustration. Even after all that chaos, the choker doesn't budge. So Kazuma keeps pushing his luck, getting revenge for all the times the girls bullied him. The next day, he lounges on Wiz's pillows while she fans him. Megumin and Yunyan are dressed in ridiculous outfits. Darkness is doing squats nearby, and Aqua conjures a private hot spring where Kazuma secretly watches Darkness bathe. Just when life seems perfect, the hot spring explodes under him and burns his Excalibur. That night, Kazuma demands a kiss from Wiz, but the girls finally snap. Aqua scolds him and says with only 1 day left, he needs to take this seriously. He tries to figure out his wish but can't think of anything. Later that night, Yunyan asks Megumin why she's going so far for Kazuma. Megumin says he's always the one who carries her home when she collapses and that he accepts her just the way she is. Yunyan gets fired up and says she'll do anything to help Kazuma, especially if Megumin's involved. On the final day, Kazuma calmly says goodbye to everyone, accepting that his time is up. The girls gather around him for a heartfelt group hug. It's a rare peaceful moment, and after 11 episodes, Kazuma finally feels at ease. But just when emotions are at their highest, Kazuma ruins everything by admitting the only reason he likes any of them is because of their assets. He confesses that he carried Megumin just to feel her against his back and even admits to watching Aqua sleep when they lived in the stables. Aqua refuses to let that be his final moment and starts violently shaking him, which causes the choker to slip off. Turns out, his real wish was just to be comforted, and the hug fulfilled it. Furious and humiliated, the girls slap the choker back on him out of revenge, sending him straight to Ares in the afterlife again. Sitting in shame, Ares scolds Kazuma for dying such a stupid death and sends him right back to the living world. The next day, Kazuma is wandering around town when he spots Dust and another adventurer named Cave lurking suspiciously in an alley. He asks what they're doing, and they admit they're psyching themselves up to enter a secret place only male adventurers know about. It's a hidden CAF run by Succubus offering dream-based relaxation services. Curious, Kazuma follows them and is shocked to see voluptuous succubus offering private fantasy experiences. Each adventurer is taken to a separate booth, and Kazuma is seated near a sketchy-looking guy. A polite receptionist succubus greets him and explains how the CAF works, offering custom dreams in exchange for just a little vitality. Kazuma gets a little too excited and quickly fills out the form. He learns he can turn into anyone he wants and choose anyone to be with in the dream. After thinking it over, Kazuma doesn't pick a specific person for his dream, just asks for a shy, gorgeous older woman with zero experience. The succubus warns him not to drink any alcohol, or it might mess up the dream's quality. Later that night at the mansion, Kazuma walks into what feels like a crab party. Darkness explains her family sent over some fancy seafood to celebrate their new home, and the whole squad is cracking shells and feasting. Kazuma takes one bite of the crab and loses it, it's that good. When Aqua suggests adding hot bubbly to the shells for flavor, he refuses. He's trying to stay sober to enjoy his dream properly. But watching the others laugh and goof around, Kazuma starts second-guessing. Maybe he should stop worrying about the fantasy and just enjoy the real moment. Still tempted, he calls it a night early and heads to bed. But once he lies down, he's too restless to sleep. To calm down, he hops into the bath. Unfortunately, he dozes off in the tub. When he wakes up, Darkness walks in without noticing him. Kazuma freaks out for a second but then grins, assuming his custom dream just started. Darkness, embarrassed beyond belief, drops to her knees, unable to even look at him. Kazuma, meanwhile, is mentally celebrating how accurate the dream feels. Thinking he's in fantasy land, he casually asks her to wash his back. Darkness, caught off guard, agrees because the situation matches her messed up fantasies a little too well. As she tries to stay composed, she hesitates while drying him off, worried Megumin or Aqua might walk in and see them. Kazuma insists she continues, still convinced he's dreaming. Right before things go too far, Aqua suddenly screams about an intruder in the mansion. Wrapped in only a towel, Kazuma dashes into the hallway and finds a young, flustered succubus caught in Aqua's full house purification barrier. That's when reality hits him hard. This isn't a dream. He realizes he just made Darkness wash him for real. Aqua prepares to blast the succubus, but Kazuma shields her, trying to help her escape. The poor girl feels guilty for messing up and begs to be punished. Kazuma refuses to let her go and argues she's just a rookie. Darkness arrives and, misreading the scene, assumes Kazuma is under some kind of charm spell, which would explain why he was acting weird and even tried to get handsy with her. That's the last straw. Aqua, Darkness, and Megumin all team up and unleash a brutal group beatdown on Kazuma, who definitely had it coming. The next morning, Kazuma acts cool and pretends he was completely under the succubus's spell the night before, claiming he doesn't remember a thing. Darkness, secretly still flustered from what happened, also pretends everything's fine, figuring he really did forget. Suddenly, Luna bursts in with urgent news something called the Mobile Fortress Destroyer is headed straight for Axel. As she rushes through town shouting for people to evacuate, she also begs all available adventurers to meet at the guild and prepare for a last-ditch effort to stop it. While most folks are panicking and packing, Aqua and Megumin are already throwing stuff into their bags, ready to bolt. Megumin warns that going up against the destroyer is basically asking to die. Darkness explains how terrifying it really is. It flattens everything in its path, and if nobody stops it, Axel is done for. But Kazuma refuses to run. After all the effort they put into getting that mansion, he's not letting it get wrecked. So instead of bailing, he heads to the guild. There, in an emergency meeting with the adventurers, Luna announces that the destroyer will arrive in just an hour. One adventurer asks if there's any way to stop it. Luna says no, its own creators were crushed by it, so there's no known countermeasure. They say things might have gone better if Kiya was here, but thanks to Kazuma selling off his sword, Kiya is pretty much useless now. For a moment, people consider fleeing, but Kazuma asks Aqua if she can at least try to destroy the barrier around the machine. Even if she can, they'll still need some serious firepower. Megumin is the obvious choice for that. Megumin isn't sure if her explosion can stop something that massive, but Kazuma tells her it's worth a shot. That's when Wiz walks in, and the whole room lights up. People act like she's got the secret formula to victory. Outside the city, workers start building barricades fast. Meanwhile, Darkness steps up and offers to help hold the line. Kazuma tells her to get inside, reminding her that even she can't survive getting hit by something like that. For once, she opens up to him. She reveals that her real name is Lalatina and that she's actually a noble sworn to protect the region. Touched by her honesty, Kazuma chooses to stand by her and teases her by calling her Lalatina, which she immediately tells him never to do again. Soon, the enormous machine appears in the distance, and its size alone terrifies everyone. Aqua climbs to the top of the wall and casts a holy break spell that successfully destroys the barrier surrounding the destroyer. With its shield gone, the mage is prepared to strike. Wiz gets ready to unleash her magic, but Megumin freezes up until Kazuma hypes her up and gives her the push she needs. Together, Wiz and Megumin release powerful magic at the same time, just barely stopping the mobile fortress destroyer before it hits the city. The town erupts in cheers, thinking the danger is over. But the celebration is cut short when the machine suddenly announces that it's about to self-destruct. While everyone else is freaking out, Darkness charges straight toward the mobile fortress destroyer with a wild look in her eyes, totally thrilled at the thought of facing death head-on. The other adventurers, thinking she's making a brave sacrifice, charge in after her. Some admit they're more worried about losing their favorite hangout spots like the Succubus CAF than the city itself. Megumin, too drained from casting her explosion spell, lies outside unable to move. Meanwhile, Kazuma leads Aqua and Wiz into the fortress to find the control room, hoping there's still a way to stop it from blowing up. Inside, they come across a skeleton sitting on a throne. Aqua checks and confirms that the man passed away peacefully, no battle, no struggle. Next to him is a book, which reveals that this man was the one who designed the destroyer. Long ago, he had been asked to build a weapon with unlimited energy. Adventurers helped by bringing him the power source he wanted, but once the machine was completed, it went rogue and wiped out a city. With nowhere left to go, the inventor locked himself inside the fortress and waited for the end. Eventually, the group finds Coronet, the energy core of the destroyer. Wiz suggests using a teleport spell to remove it, but she doesn't have enough magic left. She asks Kazuma to lend her some. Kazuma, without hesitation, uses Drain Touch to recharge her. Once she's powered up, Wiz warns that the core might land in a crowded area, but Kazuma says he'll take full responsibility if it does. She teleports the core away, and they all exit the machine. But the danger isn't over yet. The internal energy stored in the fortress is building up and might still explode. Kazuma can't lend more power, and Aqua's magic would purify Wiz if she tried to absorb it. They're out of options. Just then, Ruffian shows up carrying Megumin on his back. Kazuma quickly drains some of Aqua's magic and transfers it to Megumin. With her strength back, she charges her spell and fires off an explosion so massive that it completely wipes out the destroyer, leaving nothing but ashes. With the threat finally gone, the people of Axel begin to relax. Life returns to normal, markets reopen, streets fill with chatter, and everything feels peaceful again. But that peace doesn't last long. A group of royal knights arrives from the capital with serious expressions. When Kazuma and the other adventurers gather at the guild to see what's going on, the mood shifts immediately. These knights aren't here to hand out medals or give thanks. One of them steps forward and introduces herself as Senna, a royal prosecutor. She announces that the energy core Kazuma had teleported Coronet landed directly on the estate of a high-ranking noble. Worse, it smashed through the governor's mansion. Before Kazuma can defend himself or explain, Senna officially accuses him of treason, instantly turning Axel's newest hero into a criminal. And that's it for today's video, guys. Watch the following video, and I will see you in the next one.